Knights defeat the Raiders 30-28. I mean, there's two huge things coming out of this. It's incredible the Knights are into week 2. But I tell you what, if you want to watch a game to understand what rugby league is all about, the Canberra Raiders' performance in regards to grittiness and toughness and proving the point that it doesn't matter who you have on the field, it's about how far you are willing to go for your mate. The Raiders' performance was nothing short of incredible in my opinion, and they were very unlucky not to win the match. Timmy, I'll go to you first, mate.
What a game of footy. Devastating result as a Raiders fan, obviously, but far out. This, as you said, Kim, this was rugby league at its finest. Not even execution-wise and perfect plays, but just both sides showed so much ticker. Even the Raiders, both sides came back from, I think it was 10-point deficits to overcome that and get back into the game. When the Raiders conceded about 20 points on the trot, and they needed to rack up 10 late on to get back in. You're like, well, we don't have the attack for it. Where are we going to do that? And as the Raiders have done year in, year out, and in particular this season, we've just found a way somehow to do it and get back into the game. And we did it once again. The Knights were so far from their best, but they got the job done. There's a shitload of points in this footy side. If they can put things together the next couple of weeks, they can go deep, but fire, it was a good game of footy.
Mate, what a game of footy.
Up in Newcastle, like we say time and time again in this podcast, how good the Knights fans are and the atmosphere. To be up there on the weekend for a finals game, it was beautiful weather. The atmosphere was so special.
Yeah. I mean, even Joey was saying, I can't remember a time it's been like this. What do you think, Guru?
Mate, the Raiders have won 13 games of football this year, and I think this loss was more impressive than about 12 of those wins.
It's incredible.
They were unbelievable. You must have been so fucking proud being up there. It was wild. When you think about coming into this game without Papali'i, without Corey Horsburgh, 2 state of origin forwards, and then I know he's only in game 2 or 3, but Puru getting knocked out early, that changed so much of how you were going to play. There's a reason why he was starting 13 after 3 games, because of the sort of footballer he is, and it changed everything for you guys. I also thought when you came out, you won the energy in the first 2 or 3 minutes, and he went down injured, and it gave Newcastle an opportunity to regroup. Marshew scored, and I sort of thought, fuck, poor old Raiders. They'd come here to play, and then that might have ruined you. And you got yourself back into the fight again.
And Marshew scored that try untouched. They did it so effortlessly, and you just went, oh dear. It's all this chat of how red hot the Knights are, and they'll put a score on us, and you saw that, and you just went, maybe they're right. And then, the Raiders got so much ticker.
Yeah. Well, the 2 front rows, Jacob Saifidi ran for 84 metres, and Leo Thompson ran for 66. The starting front rowers for the Raiders ran for 193 metres, Ata Moriata, and Tarpanet ran for 178. That in a losing side is nothing short of incredible.
Mariota was an Adonis, and
so good.
I dead set reckon if you asked 9 out of 10 rugby league fans if they knew who Adam Mariota was, they'd say not a chance.
Yeah. Doesn't it bode well for the future of the Raiders? The fact that you've got guys like Mariota, you got Tarpanet, got plenty of years of footy. Gula was outstanding off the bench. Solo, Trey Mooney, I thought we definitely started to see, this is what this kid, all this chat has been about with Trey Mooney. Mate, as I said, the purity of the way the Raiders played, that's what rugby league is built off. It's built off, we've got all these other games in the world where it's purely about skill. Whereas rugby league, a big part of it is toughness and willing to go that extra mile for the mate beside you. That's what makes rugby league so unique to any other sport in the world, where you genuinely have to put your body on the line for the mate beside you. Whereas a lot of other sports, you could look at maybe NFL, but NFL is very stop-start, whereas league is 80 minutes of fatigue. It's 80 minutes of asking the question, how far am I willing to push my body to make sure that I don't let the guy beside me down? And that's what the Raiders showed on the weekend. It was nothing short of incredible. It seriously was.
Emre Gula, 78 minutes at prop.
Unbelievable.
I look at that, Mariota and Trey Mooney. If you can put big pre-seasons into those two, you could have the best pack in rugby league next year.
Remember the start of the year when we were all looking for Trey Mooney round 1? And I'm almost certain it was Mariota who got that spot. And we went, geez, I didn't see that coming. And then bang, you see finals going with that and how good Mariota was. Well, that's why.
Wasn't it bizarre in the pre-season? there was all these whispers coming out of Canberra that Corey Hawes was going to play 13. Everyone was like, don't know about that. Now Corey Hawes been not playing 13. It's a train wreck. And Mariota was the one that came out with all the raps. And we get to finals time and he just exploded. It was so good to see.
And that's where, like, I mentioned this off air before, but the Raiders, and there's all these links, and there's always question marks around links, but to Kalyn and Cowboys edge back rails and all that, it's all good and well. You're not looking at the right spot, boys. Like, so we need it in the back line. We don't need more forwards. We have so much forward depth.
Mate, you absolutely don't need any more forwards. Like, if there's one pack that isn't like a top tier pack where you're like, this is set, it's sorted. You have the big bop, you've got Tarpon at the front, you've got guns like Trey Mooney, Mariota coming forward, Emre Gula plays such a good role, Hudson Young, like your forwards are sorted. I just thought it was such an amazing effort, and it just proved you, like, again, we talk about it time in, time out, but it doesn't matter how good you are. Like, obviously it matters how good you are, and it's what makes Penrith so special. They have all this grit plus the talent. Now, obviously Raiders have talent, but their roster isn't as stacked as Penrith Panthers. But Ricky Stewart has instilled in these guys that there is no one that we play that's better than us. We will fight everyone equally as tough as the next guy, as the next week. And it's just incredible. It was inspiring to watch. It really was. Like, they did not for a second look like a side that shouldn't be in the 8. They didn't for a second look like a side that roster wasn't as good. I mean, Rapana was phenomenal. Like, in a week that was all about Kalyn Ponga. And look, rightly so, he did end up winning the game for him. Rightly so. Rapana was not that far off in regards to impact in the game as Kalyn Ponga was.
280 metres.
10 tackle breaks. Like, that is, he had a line break assist. For a guy that a couple of years ago basically was moved on from the Raiders because of salary cap, all that, went over to Japan, came straight back. I think he had to, like, force his way back into he couldn't get a top grade squad because the cap was already done or something like that. Was that the...
Yeah, and then obviously it happened as COVID hit, so he couldn't go through with the Japanese stuff, and I think he had a massively, like, disrupted preseason because of all that, and he didn't have a club, and I don't even know if he actually got over to Japan at all. So through that season, I think it was more in 2020, he was all right, but not what we'd seen. It was like, he'd fallen off a cliff a bit. Like, he's been tremendous since. People sort of missed the fact that he hardly had a preseason. Yeah. I'm sure he was doing his own stuff, but COVID was a weird time. Yeah,
doing your own stuff is nothing. You can train as hard as you want by yourself. You're never going to train as hard as you are in a preseason. Yeah, Jordan Rapana, like we have to remember this is a guy that 3 years ago it was like, okay, he's at the end of his career. He's a bit older. He was phenomenal on the weekend. Absolutely phenomenal. Aside from that one blemish, Jackie Whiten was outstanding as well. Really, really good in the centres. And, Ricky Stewart said something pretty interesting in the press conference. He said Jackie Whiten has always been a centre. He has only played 6 for the betterment of the team. I was like, geez, to think that he's been playing 6 for this many years because the team needs it, fuck, isn't that what the Raiders are all about?
It is. Don't you also try and recruit accordingly to get into his best position? How were those 2 defensive plays you had early on? There was the one where him and Matty Frawley jammed Gagai for that Schiller opener, smashed him off the scrum, and then when Marju made that break, Jackie from the other side of the field flew across, took out Marju.
Yeah.
He had some big plays.
Actually, just quickly, back on the Sharkies-Roosters game, don't forget Nico Hines' try-saving tackle, when they made that chip chase Teddy and that. That was incredible. That kept him in the game. Anyway, back to the Raiders. Yeah, seriously, an incredible. I actually thought Kotrick has been getting a little bit better and better each week towards the back end of the season.
Definitely.
I was really surprised. Like, I'm one of Kotrick's biggest fans. Like, I love him as a player, and as a bloke, he's obviously a legend. But really surprised at just how his trajectory of his career has completely changed. But I think in the last month or so of footy, he's actually been quite good. Mate, the Raiders were outstanding. They really were. Like, what a memorable moment for everyone involved to go up to Newey and have such a classic game of rugby league. Don't the fans deserve it, eh? Like, what a repayment for the years and years of just shit.
It's not very often I sit at home and wish I was at a game of football.
Yeah.
Like, it's not very often I sit there and go, geez, I really actually wish I was there today. And yesterday was one of them. It looked incredible.
Yeah, one of the great afternoons. I can't, looking forward to next year going to a few 90s games.
Mate, so
they've always been, for a lot of people, their second team. They're a very likeable club. They've got a great culture, and it was wonderful. I couldn't encourage people any more next season to get up there. And the problem is you'll struggle to get tickets because they're bloody fill out every weekend.
Now, talk about individual performances for the Raiders. I guess the disappointing thing, you look at it all from a perspective of gritty, tough. Unfortunate thing for the Raiders and Raiders fans is they actually gave themselves every opportunity to win that game. They dominated. They had more possession, 57% compared to 43% of the Knights. More time possession, much better completion rate, about 300 more metres run, more post contact, more line breaks, more tackle breaks. I mean, you name it. We could go down the list. More offloads, everything. And just didn't have that icing on the cake to finish it. And I think that's a really, if you ever want to see okay, do they really need that X factor player in the back line to win the matches? I think watching that game, if they had a top tier Origin level back, they win that game. And I think that's what's clearly missing at the Raiders right now. And I know obviously Jackie Whiten's playing centre, but for so long he's been playing 6. And also, we've said it all season long, if Jackie Whiten isn't firing, the Raiders just can't go deep in the finals. He fired obviously on the weekend, but because he's been so quiet, it's almost a miracle the Raiders are where they are.
I thought it was interesting. Like I watched Jack Whiten, and in attack he was sensational. His stats were 19 runs for 164 metres with 50 post contact. Matty Timoko, who I didn't really notice him, 163 run metres off 16 runs with 51 post contact.
He was great, Timoko.
Yeah, but I didn't I walked away from there going, geez, Jack was great in attack. I didn't feel the same with Timoko. Then I look at the stats and go, fuck, there wasn't much in it.
Yeah.
Pretty much identical.
Yeah. He was Timoko's getting he's getting so consistent that you kind of accept it now, I think.
Yeah.
Because very rarely do I look at a game this season at least with Timoko and go, didn't really have a crack there, like 70 metres, 10 runs or something like that. Who stood out for you for the Raiders?
Jeez, Mariota had 193 run metres.
He was so good.
He was so fucking good.
Wow.
So good. If you said to me, that's Josh Papali'i, I would say, oh yeah, that's Josh Papali'i.
Yeah.
Like honestly, sometimes when he was playing the ball, I almost clicked back and was like, oh, Papali'i. No, that's Mariota.
Yeah, it was very bittersweet when I was Raiders fan. I was obviously so proud of the boys for so many reasons, but on all the stats you read out, Kempy, and watching that game, like the Knights gave us every opportunity to win this game. The amount of ball they dropped out of their own end, their completion was terrible. We had every right to win this game. We couldn't ice it, and you hate being too critical at times, especially at the end of a season. But Jamal Fogarty, who's had a great year for the Raiders, I love the bloke. He had not just one, but several opportunities to ice this game. And like we mentioned, Nicho Hines and out his charge downs, he got himself in position to have a shot. Unfortunately, Jamal made a couple of poor decisions in the back end of that game in Golden Point. One where took the attack on fourth tackle to the back corner and they couldn't get a shot in. They had a crossfield kick when they could have been having a shot at the one. I know it was extra time. It's a little bit different to Golden Point where, you're building across a 10-minute period. But there was then, even on the buzzer off the scrum, great opportunity to have a crack at it. Couldn't get close there. We had too many opportunities to win this footy and we couldn't do it.
Yeah, and I think as well that he kicked the ball out in the full, about 10 to go, I think. Unfortunately, he played probably 60 to 70 minutes of really good rugby league. And just in that, the back end of the game, it's weird because he's had a game where something similar happened. I think it was against the Dolphins. And then he kind of put that all behind him because he kicked that field goal against the Titans. But it does seem like as the pressure ramps up, because I don't know what the reason is, but it does seem to get to him a little bit in those big moments. Like that, the one with the scrum one, there's no way you should be getting charged down there. You should be so deep that it's just
how can you not execute that? And it's not only him, it's passes, it's everything in there, but you have to be able to execute that better.
Even if you miss the field goal.
Yeah, but get the shot away.
Get the shot away for sure.
The kick out on the full late in that game,
Yeah,
that was
tough.
inexcusable.
Yeah. The other big one I thought was the kick just after half time. You're up, you're on the front foot. He put up a bomb from about 30 or 40 out and it was caught in the in goals. 7 tackles. It flipped the momentum of the game completely.
And it's the thing is, I actually think he played really good. 60 to 70 minutes, I thought he was outstanding and I thought his kicking game was mostly good. But yeah, it did seem as the pressure seemed to ratchet up, it's almost like he was getting flashbacks of the Dolphins game going, because like I remember a post-match press conference interview where he was like, man, I don't know what happened, like because they had 3 opportunities or something to ice the game and he just kept playing the ball. And so that's where I think as a coach, maybe you need to step in and have a set play. And maybe Ricky has already done this, and look, it's easier for us to say because we're saying in hindsight when in the season he had that game against the Dolphins where it happened, but then he seemed to redeem himself against the Titans. So you, as a coach, you go, oh, okay, well maybe it's monkeys off the back. But I do think, especially let's say they were to have a finals game next week, you would hope that Ricky would say to him, mate, when we need to do a field goal, this is the set you call, and this is exactly what you need to do.
Yeah, and just to double down on it, as I said, I mentioned Nico, but if he gets them in position and gets charged down, I'm disappointed, but I'm like, okay, they're bloody hard things to do, nail field goals in big moments. But as a number 7, your number 1 job is game management, and he took us to the wrong positions of the field when he needed to be ready to try and ice that game. So the shots didn't even come.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same with the Nico situation. Like, regardless of how well they play up to that point, you've got to... The first one I can understand in play, look, you just get charged down. It's one of the situation. But to have multiple shots in it to happen, that's where I'm thinking a more experienced 7, that doesn't happen, I don't think. What do you got there, Matty?
Jamie Soward, one of the, if not the best field goal kicker of our generation, tweeted last night, the art of setting up for a field goal is actually harder than kicking it. I wonder if teams practice it as much anymore.
Yeah, and it's what I said like before the podcast. That's where I think, and maybe Ricky has sat down with him and done it, and, Fogarty just didn't. But that's what I'm like, surely there's a play that they... Like, you go to the Rabbitohs. Remember they would go to Reynolds. Reynolds would then pass it to Trell. Yep. It was a full setup. There's got to be a call of like, everyone knows the call. It's called, whatever it's called. It's called green. And everyone knows exactly their job, and it's specifically set up to give the kicker as much space as possible to kick that goal.
That hitting the main man where everyone's focused on it and then swinging it back like the Bunnies did, or teams do it often enough, but nowhere near often enough. And then a bloke's almost got a free shot with all the time in the world. I don't know why that doesn't get used.
That's the thing. Like, I don't know either. Like, for example, that second Nico field goal, I was surprised that they didn't do that for him. The first one I can understand. Look, charge downs happen. But when it's already happened, you go, okay, look, they're on to me as a kicker. I'm the main guy. And the same with Fogarty. I'm the main guy. Just get Frawley set up. Just go bang straight to Frawley. And funnily enough, is one of the field goals he did try to kick. Frawley did have a second crack at it. Now he didn't have enough time or anything. So yeah, I agree with you. That's something where Ricky and Fogarty. Fogarty first, he needs to ice it, but then I think Ricky going forward needs to make sure it's extremely clear that, mate, this is exactly the call we go for with a drop goal, because especially in season, you're going to go for the drop goal every day of the week. So you may as well have a set up to give you exactly the amount of space you need.
Especially when you're the team that plays in close, tight games week in, week out. Like, they should be the masters of this sort of stuff.
Yeah, true. Now, onto the Knights. Also, don't forget, guys, Bloke footy shorts partnered with Aussie footy shorts. They have pockets. They are outstanding. There's limited amount. Monday, 6 p.m. Set your alarms. They've already been made. We cannot make more. So once these are gone, they are gone skis. Monday, 6 p.m. On to the Knights. Look, it wasn't pretty. It was super ugly. And they had things go against them. Hastings going off at halftime. But Jesus, good for rugby league. These guys are in week 2. And Jesus, good for the Knights, because I would be devo if this Knights side bounced out of the finals without giving themselves and their fans, showing them what they can do in finals. This isn't the showing that you wanted to leave finals footy in when we know how good they've been. But that aside, I'm going to glass half full it. The Knights are through. It's amazing. And the guy we spoke about before in the preview, this was his time to step up. This is what he was brought to the club to do. And boy, did he deliver.
Yeah, he was huge, wasn't he?
Mate, Ponga has arrived.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mentioned it a couple of hours ago earlier in the show, but just that moment where he led the kick chase, put the shot on Geordie Rapana, I love that. He obviously came out with big plays during. I thought that was the one where he got it out the back of Tyson Gamble, and I think it was Jackie White, and that he skinned. Mate, the pace he was going at, just how do you defend that?
And when he was moving that quickly, I was like, I forgot how quick Ponga was. And I think it has to do with his dropped muscle mass because he doesn't have to be in the front line anymore. Because that's one concern I had with him the fact that he done a whole preseason for frontline defence, you're going to put on more muscle mass.
He got huge in the preseason.
He was massive.
Yeah.
And it's like KP does not need to be that big. He is a lightning quick. And I think for a while there, there was even like little things. Like he actually, completely broke Kick Chaser's ankles with a mad step on last night. And we haven't seen that in quite a while. Like we've seen it a bit towards the end of the year, but at the start of the year, we weren't seeing that.
That's the scary thing too with KP. Like he's obviously finished this season in unbelievable form, but going into next season, he's going to actually have a fullback pre-season.
Yeah.
If the Knights knock off the Warriors this week, Walsh v Ponga preliminary final.
Suncorp Stadium. It doesn't get better.
Jesus.
Like tell me two fullbacks should want to battle each other more than those two electric fullbacks.
Do you know what else would be cool there too? Like, it's a much smaller battle, but it'll be Ezra Mam and Tyson Gamble.
Yeah.
It's only 18 months ago we were sitting here, which of them's going to fight it out?
Kevy Walters versus Tyson Gamble?
Yeah.
Do you reckon Kevy will go on, if they win, Kevy will go, can I coach now, bro? Or do you reckon if the Knights beat the Bronx, if they make it through, does he go, Kevy can't coach on the mic?
Doubles down.
Whose side do you reckon Cobo would be on?
Oh, what a battle! If it's so Cobbo's on the right side, so it would be Marjo.
I meant because Cobo sledged Kevy Walters as well.
I thought you meant like if he'd be up against Dom Young. No, I think he'd be on Kevy's side, mate. It's all good, mate. Stop trying to create drama in the club, matey. Jesus Christ. But yeah, the Knights. What I loved about this win is like not a lot went right for them. They were nowhere near where they should be or where they have been over the last whatever weeks, but they showed that grit. Their ability to swing the game back in their momentum was outstanding.
Can be 15 errors, not just errors. Like it's where the errors came. It was coming out of their own end in horrible positions. When you make errors attacking the opposition line or in the opposition half, you're playing some attacking football. It happens. You turn over, not a bad spot. They were in horrible positions. 49 missed tackles, lost the penalty count 7-5, 70% completion. Not horrific, but again, where they turned it over. Really bad signs, but they won the game of footy and they still scored 30 points.
Yep.
That is a good sign because if they can turn these things around throughout the rest of the finals, well, how good can they be?
Yeah, absolutely. Like that's why I think that them going down to, if you had said to me a few weeks ago, can Knights go to New Zealand and beat them in a home final, I would have said no way. Warriors at home, it's just going to be too much. Like they'll almost play their grand final, but now with how poorly they played. And they still scored 30 points, you have to ask yourself, if they can click into gear, 80+%, geez, I'll give them a run for their money at home. Like when you look at all these stats, they saved their worst game, what do you reckon, in 2 months, maybe 3 months?
Definitely.
Like this is the worst they've played in 3 months and they somehow won it.
Here's some numbers for you in the first half. The Newcastle spine, Ponga, Phoenix, Gamble, Hastings, they combined for 60 metres in the first half. There was one forward that ran for over 35 metres in the first half for Newcastle. Meanwhile, Jordan Rapinoe had ran for 150 metres in the first half.
The GOAT outplayed KP.
But to have your entire spine combined for 60 metres in a half, that's ridiculous.
Spine with KP in it as well.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And remember, Hastings was on one leg. Phoenix didn't have any run metres. So, yeah, pretty wild there. It'll be interesting. Obviously, they lost Jackson Hastings at halftime. I don't know what the story was there, but I think, it was pretty evident Hastings didn't kick the ball at all in the first half. So, you'd have to assume he wasn't 100% going into that.
Yeah, I got to say, I admire Hastings' grit and his toughness, and he's been such a big reason for their turnaround. But if you can't kick a ball as a 7 and you don't have a 6 that is a noted kicker, I just don't know whether you should be playing, if I'm being honest. I think... And maybe he did kick a ball, and I'm forgetting, or we're forgetting, or whatever. But does he have any kick meters?
My memory
kick
was
meters.
that he didn't kick the ball at all.
Jeez.
I just don't know. With Adam Clune playing as well as he did, I just don't know if that's the right call for the team. Now, maybe it was Adam O'Brien that made that call and was like, no, we believe in you, you can play. But if you can't kick as a 7, you shouldn't be playing, in my opinion, to be honest.
It was interesting early in the game. He dummied left. And he prodded, and I thought, this will be interesting. Is he going to run or is he just going to pass the ball off? And he ran, and I thought, okay, he must be sweet. But then didn't kick the ball.
Well, he went down. He kicked himself in the ankle.
Kicked himself, yeah.
But it was in contact.
Yeah, with contact, yeah.
So that's what puts you down. I just don't know if he should have been playing.
Especially when he's playing with Tyson Gamble, who's not known for having an elite kicking game as such. Not a knock on him. He's just a great ball running playmaker. So it's like if he was partnered with, say, Kalyn or whatever, you say you let a halfback in Kalyn take over the kicking, whatever, but it was a gamble.
Oh, one of your best there, Timmy.
Accidental until
Was
the
it?
last set. It was
Just
accidental.
claim it, mate.
Yeah.
Mate, just claim it. So I do think that was a mistake from Newcastle. Like if you can't kick the balls a 7, if you have a severe injury so bad you cannot kick it in play, you shouldn't be on the
His
field.
gamble sweet. He was in all sorts with 5 minutes to go from the sideline.
Yeah,
Just
that'd
before
be
that
interesting.
penalty, he was down and like smacking the ground.
Yeah.
I just haven't seen any follow up. Is he good?
Maybe just give her a Google, Matty, see if Gamble's sweet. But again, the really impressive thing for the Knights is they got the job done. They got the job done somehow, some way. The great Kurt Mann come off the bench, led them to
good.
victory. He was great off the bench.
He was.
I want to give a shout out to Dane Gagai, mate. He played potentially the worst first half of his career. Bounced back in the second half. He scored a good try, but mate, the moment that stood out for me was the scoot from dummy half he took in extra time. I was saying to Matty before, that was Justin Hodges-esque.
Yeah.
Bounced off 2 or 3, and that's what got the momentum in that set to get them down there to get the opportunity to kick the penalty goal.
Yeah.
So really good there from Dane Gagai that, I'm having a shocking afternoon and he still manages to come up with that play at the end.
But that's Dane Gagai.
Yep,
that
100%.
epitomises Dane Gagai, where other players would have gone into their shell, and it's a fine line because you want your player to care. You want them to care when they make mistakes. But you're no good to us if you're kicking rocks for the rest of the game. You don't help us with that. We can look in the video session and go, you know what, Gagai, terrible first half. You need to fix this. But if you come out in the second half and go, oh, I'm not playing well, I better not continue to have a crack, or I'll just try to sneak through this game and not make any more errors, you're no good to anyone. And so, ironically, he had such a bad first half, you could argue the Knights wouldn't have been in a position they were, but also they don't win the game if he's not in the second half. He was incredible in the second half.
And you have a look at like Dom Young and Marcia, both ran for 220 metres. Great knock. Both had line breaks, pretty long line breaks. Dane Gagai, 178 metres in a game that I thought he had a shocker until the last 20.
Yeah. Yeah. It just epitomises what he's...
8 tackle breaks.
Even in this year, getting dropped from the Queensland side and just fighting his way back to form. Just love to see it. Isn't Dom Young just going from strength to strength to strength? And one of the real... unfortunate for everyone, in my opinion. Like, I know he's going to go to the Roosters and they're going to get the best out of him. It's going to be great. But just a missed opportunity to build a club cult hero for the next 10 years at the Newey Knights.
I think he's done really well. He's a guy that when he first came into first grade, we spoke about a lot on this show. Defensively, there was a lot of issues there. There was a lot of errors in his game. And, it sort of became the common thing for everyone to say. It was true.
Yeah.
But, mate, I haven't heard anyone say it in ages. And he's actually not like... Sometimes you see players like... Daniel Tupou is a good example. He was like that at the start of his career. It completely changed, but people just held on to that. Just saying that about him.
Yeah.
Dom Young has completely overcome all of that now.
Yeah, it's so true.
I haven't heard anyone mention it, and they shouldn't have mentioned it, but usually it just sort of hangs on like a bad smell.
Yeah. When he first came in, some of his defensive reads, you're going, what are you looking at? Because I'm seeing something totally different.
Even at the World Cup last year.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yes.
And then this year, he has just gone strength to strength, and it is scary to think the player that Dom Young can become. Like, it is truly scary.
I mentioned you boys before the show. So we were sitting there right there in front of him in that second half, and just the physique on the bloke.
Oh.
He is a giant, but like not an ounce of fat on him. He's like nearly the perfectly sculpted NRL outside back.
Mate.
Height, speed, strength. Freaking hell.
Yeah. And, like, imagine him with 2 or 3 more years, especially the Roosters is a good system. Like, imagine what he's going to be when his balance comes in, when he fills out. Like, it is super scary to think what this kid's
So
going
it
to be.
looked like a masterstroke sign with the Knights 12 months ago, and now all of a sudden it's, looks like a good spot to be, that wing at the Knights.
Mate, absolutely. Outside KP,
Yeah.
one of the best in the business in getting the ball. Oh, man, missed opportunity by all parties. Like, whoever's fault it was or whatever, you got to think Dom Young's sitting there going, you know what, I love it here. Like, the
He must
Knights-
be enjoying it so much right
Yeah,
now.
there's nothing better. You're scoring meaties. Everyone loves you. You could have got a decent... Well, you would have hoped the Knights would have given him a decent wicket. So, missed opportunity. But let's focus on the positive. Outstanding. Our boy Phoenix Crossland. Far out. Seriously, to think that we may head into 2024, in round 1, we may read a team sheet that has Brayley at 14 and Crossland at 9, is absolutely outrageous, but it also might happen.
It quite possibly could happen. If you're going off form, it probably should happen.
That's crazy. And I'm not saying he's a better player yet than Jaden Brayley, but in squads, it's all about earning the right to, each week you've got to earn the right to put that jersey on. And like right now, the scary thing for Phoenix Crossland is, imagine a preseason under his belt at 9, and then imagine the impact him and Brayley are going to have through the middle going forward.
Isn't it crazy with this Newcastle side? Like, if you go back 15 weeks plus and look at each player, Kalyn Ponga, like how many people were calling for KP's head that he didn't care about the game? Dom Young, couldn't tackle, shouldn't be picked in the side because he's not going to be here next year anyway. Marshu, couldn't defend to save himself, too many errors. Like, even Tyson Gamble, he's a 5'8" you can't rely on. Phoenix Crossland, they don't have a hooker, their season's over. Like, even Lockie Fitzgibbon, like I remember when he signed to go over to England, I went, okay, Newcastle will be fine, they won't miss him. 10 weeks later, I'm going, geez, that's going to be a hard hole to fill now. Yeah. All these guys have just completely flipped the narrative, and the biggest one of all was Adam O'Brien. He was getting run out of the town week in, week out. Now, they're a win away from a prelim final.
Years of persisting with Adam O'Brien. They said the knives are out for him from just about everyone. And you go, okay, this is why the Knights persisted with him, because what he's been able to do with all the players you just mentioned and where they are, well, there you go.
And there's no need to go into it, but people in rugby league circles, you were hearing a different rumour about Adam O'Brien every week for the last 2 years. I haven't heard shit.
No.
No one's even mentioned his name in the last 10 weeks.
Funny what winning does, doesn't it?
It's amazing. And I think that, fair play for the Knights for hanging on with Adam O'Brien, because we've spoken about it quite a bit, but how often do we see these good coaches come from great systems? They get to a new club and they try to say, all right, I'm going to take the Roosters, the Storm way, and I'm just going to go apply it to Newey. And they've given Adam O'Brien time to go, okay, I'm going to take the best bits of what I used to know, but also understand that this is a different team with a different environment. And look where they are now. Like, this is a side that going forward, they'll be able to recruit better. But I'd be surprised if they don't build on this next year. Another really important thing is we didn't hear from them, we had this crazy preseason. So I'm not hearing any talk about, like you look at the Cowboys and you could argue, okay, they had this hectic preseason and that's what got them up for that year, and then they fatigued a bit next year. Now, I'm not saying that's the case, but you could make the argument for it. Where I haven't heard any of that with the Knights, of we had this insane preseason, we did this crazy army camp, and that's what's got them up. They've built into this year perfectly. Another, I think, a real big point in Kalyn Ponga's career. Obviously, it was the coming back from the head knocks and everything, but I actually think it might even go back a little bit further to a conversation with Wayne Bennett, the reported conversation where he basically said, do you want to challenge yourself? Implying that at the Newcastle Knights, he wouldn't be challenged and that he would continue to be comfortable. The reports essentially that Kalyn was like, nah, I will challenge myself at the Knights. Now, maybe that had a bit more to do with the fact that he'd be playing 6, and the Dolphins didn't really see him as a 6; they saw him as a fullback. But at the very least, I do think it has helped light a fire under Kalyn Ponga. The fact that he's coming out and done what he's done after his career was nearly over is nothing short of amazing. And the sign of a good coach and a good system is, are you getting the best out of players, and are you making them play to a potential that not even anyone else saw? That's a sign of a good club. That's a sign of a good environment.
Isn't it a good sign of a good club too that, they're going into a sudden death final this weekend. Their hooker's going to be Phoenix Crossland. Their halfback's going to be Adam Clune. Their 5'8's going to be Tyson Gamble. I'm not overly concerned.
Yeah. It's
I'd
honestly...
rather Jackson be there, no doubt about that, but the depth that they've managed to build, and even how they've managed to get Jackson and Adam Clune, who are two very like-for-like footballers, I'm very confident Clune can come in and play a very similar role to what Jackson did. He's shown over the last 3 weeks he can. I don't think all that much changes.
Yeah. I don't... Going into this Warriors clash with that spine you just read out, if you take out Kalyn from that, you've got Phoenix, Tyson, Clune, and they're in the second week of a finals, and also basically it's a 50-50 shout as to who can win that match for me. I've tipped the Warriors, but I'm not that confident. I'm really not that confident.
Well, we'll get to the preview soon, but the one thing we said about the Warriors that worried us last week was their edge defence. If your edge defence is off against this mob, you're in all sorts.
Another bloke I want to give a massive shout out to, Jack Hetherington.
Yeah.
Mate, 6 or so weeks ago, I was like, Jesus, like, when is enough enough? Like, when is enough? You get sent from the field, 10 in the bin for the silliest mistakes ever. He's reined it completely in, and he's just gone about his business and done his job. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for that, because these things aren't easy to turn around when you're a hothead the way he is. I think he deserves credit.
I have no doubt whatsoever that at some point during the week, Ricky Schilt would have grabbed Hudson and go, hey, there's a brown paper bag. You didn't get punched in the head by him this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Greg Marju, outstanding. Like Dom Young, Greg Marju combined for 446 metres. Like, talk about crucial. Like, it is amazing what the Knights are doing, and to see the fans attend, like listening to the roar, and like Kalyn Ponga, the game is finished. Kalyn Ponga is getting interviewed by 9. Half the fans are still there.
Yeah.
Cheering, and he's going, give us some more, and they're going up, going crazy. Like,
I was in Manly by that point.
Mate, it is nothing short of incredible. What a gutsy win by the Knights, because before the game, everything was set up for them to win well. During the game, everything was set up for an upset. If you know what I mean? Like, when the game kicked off and you got through that first 10 minutes, it was the recipe for an ambush. It was the recipe for the ambush. And just the grittiness and determination, just hang in the game long enough to just get enough points to win. And that's what they did. Incredible stuff. I cannot wait to watch them this week. Really cannot wait.